In 1987, while cruising through the English Channel, a thought struck him. The airplane he had just spotted in the sky resembled the one that Glenn Miller had been aboard when he disappeared without a trace on December 15, 1944. Miller, the legendary band leader, had vanished during a routine flight, sparking decades of speculation. Was it poor weather conditions? A mechanical failure? Or could there be a darker, more secretive explanation behind his sudden disappearance? Today, we delve deep into the mystery of Glenn Miller's final flight, unraveling the secrets surrounding his disappearance. Was espionage involved? Were there covert missions at play? New evidence has surfaced, potentially bringing us closer to solving this historic enigma once and for all. From the rise of his musical genius to the baffling end of his life, we will explore the facts, separate the myths, and uncover the truth about Glenn Miller's untimely end. To fully grasp the complexity of Miller's story, we must start at the very beginning. Born Alton. Glenn Miller in Clarinda, Iowa, the man who would become an icon of the big band era, wasn't always known by the name that would define his legacy. In his high school years, he opted for the name Glenn with a double N, a subtle but significant choice that would serve both legal and military purposes. Official documents, including military records, tax returns, and even his driver's license, listed him as Alton G. Miller, a far cry from the polished, star-studded name we know today. Miller's love for music started early. After earning money by milking cows, he bought his first trombone and joined the town orchestra in Grant City, Missouri. Though he played several instruments, cornet, mandolin, and more, the trombone would eventually become his instrument of choice. By 1918, the Miller family relocated to Fort Morgan, Colorado, where Glenn attended high school. An accomplished student, he excelled in sports, particularly football, and even served as editor for his school's yearbook for 2 years. Interestingly, his name appeared both as Glenn and Glenn in these yearbooks, reflecting the ongoing evolution of his identity. Upon graduating high school in 1921, Miller's sights were set firmly on a career in music. The thrill of performing had captured his soul, and he knew this was the path he wanted to follow. Unbeknownst to him, his journey would lead him to become one of the most influential and beloved band leaders in history. In 1923, Miller enrolled at the University of Colorado at Boulder, where he joined the Sigma Nu fraternity. However, his heart was far from academia. While his classmates were hitting the books, Miller was auditioning for bands and playing gigs in Denver. Struggling with his coursework, particularly failing classes like harmony, he had a realization. His true calling was music, not the classroom. He dropped out of college and set his sights on a professional career in music. Miller's journey soon took him to New York City, where he honed his skills and embraced the Schillinger system, a revolutionary method for composing and arranging music. It was during his time under the tutelage of Joseph Schillinger that Miller composed his famous tune, Miller's Tune, which would later be renamed Moonlight Serenade. This haunting melody became his signature theme, capturing the essence of Miller's musical style and propelling him into the limelight. By 1926, Glenn Miller had hit the road, touring with various bands and eventually securing a spot with the Ben Pollock Orchestra in Los Angeles. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of his rise to musical greatness. His name would soon be synonymous with the golden age of big band jazz, and his music would inspire generations to come. But amid the highs of his career, the mystery of his disappearance would eventually overshadow everything, leaving the world with more questions than answers. Miller also found himself playing for Victor Young, learning from some of the finest musicians in the business. He started as the lead trombone soloist, but when the gifted Jack Teagarden joined the band, Miller's solos were significantly reduced. This setback, however, proved to be a turning point for Miller. He realized his true strength lay not just in playing, but in arranging and composing music. This revelation led to him publishing 125 Jazz Breaks for Trombone in 1928, a book showcasing his expertise in creating intricate, distinctive arrangements for the trombone. During his time with Ben Pollock's orchestra, Miller's compositions began to take shape. He wrote several arrangements, including his first major composition, Room 1411, which he co-wrote with none other than Benny Goodman, a rising star in the jazz world. In 1928, Miller's personal life also flourished. He reunited with his college sweetheart, Helen Berger, and the two were married. Shortly after, he joined Red Nichols Orchestra, known as Red Nichols and His Five Pennies, where he contributed to the pit bands for Broadway shows such as Strike Up the Band and Girl Crazy. This band was a veritable powerhouse of talent, with legends like Benny Goodman and Gene Krupa in the ranks. By the late 1920s and early 1930s, Glenn Miller was becoming a force to be reckoned with in the world of jazz. He freelanced as a trombonist for various bands, rubbing elbows with jazz giants like Tommy Dorsey, Benny Goodman, and Joe Venuti. He was also writing and arranging for the Dorsey Brothers Band, crafting infectious tunes like Annie's Cousin Fanny and Tomorrow's Another Day. But Miller's real breakthrough came in 1935 when he assembled an American orchestra for British bandleader Ray Noble. It was in this setting that Miller developed his signature sound, an innovative arrangement using a lead clarinet played alongside 4 saxophones. This distinct sound would go on to define Miller's own big band in the years to come. Miller's growing reputation took him to Hollywood, where in 1936 he made a cameo in the big broadcast of 1936, performing with Ray Noble's orchestra. The film featured performances by Dorothy Dandridge and the Nicholas brothers, who would later collaborate with Miller on 2 other movies. However, despite these early successes, 1937 marked a difficult chapter in Miller's career. He formed his own band, but the venture initially failed to make an impact. The band struggled to carve out a niche in an increasingly crowded music scene, and after a disappointing run, it disbanded in 1938. Even Benny Goodman, a longtime supporter, offered words of encouragement to the disheartened Miller, telling him, "I don't know, Glenn. You just stay with it." Undeterred by this setback, Miller doubled down on his musical aspirations. He realized he needed something unique to rise above the competition. It was then that he experimented with an unconventional sound, using the clarinet to carry the melody while the tenor saxophone played the same note an octave lower, with the other saxophones harmonizing within a single octave. This bold approach was not only innovative, it was the hallmark of his later big band sound. In his search for the right talent to bring his vision to life, Miller discovered an exceptional saxophonist named Wilbur Schwartz. Miller hired him, but instead of sticking to a traditional setup, he had Schwartz play the clarinet, which was unorthodox at the time, but would later become a key element of his band's unmistakable sound. This forward-thinking approach would soon take Glenn Miller from the fringes of the music industry to becoming one of its biggest stars. He had Schwartz play the lead clarinet, and this new blend of sounds quickly became Miller's secret weapon. It set his band apart from the countless others vying for attention in the late 1930s. The unique and instantly recognizable style would soon become synonymous with the Glenn Miller Orchestra, a sound that would resonate with listeners across the world. In a 1939 interview with Metronome magazine, Miller elaborated on the essence of his distinctive sound, saying, "You'll notice today some bands use the same trick on every introduction. Others repeat the same musical phrase as a modulation into a vocal. We're fortunate in that our style doesn't limit us to stereotyped intros, modulations, first choruses, endings, or even trick rhythms." He credited the role of the 5th saxophone player, who primarily played the clarinet, for the unmistakable identity of his music. The 5th sax playing the clarinet most of the time lets you know whose band you're listening to, and that's about all there is to it. In September 1938, the newly formed Glenn Miller Orchestra signed with Bluebird Records, a subsidiary of RCA Victor. This partnership, backed by businessman Cy Shribman, marked a turning point for Miller and his band. Their luck began to change in the spring of 1939 when they had a successful gig at the Meadowbrook Ballroom in New Jersey, followed by a major breakthrough performance at the Glen Island Casino in New Rochelle, New York. The Glen Island show drew a record-breaking crowd, signaling their rising popularity and the beginning of their meteoric ascent to fame. By 1939, the Glenn Miller Orchestra had become a household name. Their music filled jukeboxes across the nation, with Time magazine noting that Miller's records were among the most popular in the country. One of their standout hits, Tuxedo Junction, released in 1940, sold an astonishing 115,000 copies in just 1 week, further cementing their place at the top of the charts. Their success was not confined to record sales. Miller's band also reached new heights with a prestigious performance at Carnegie Hall in October 1939. Sharing the stage with big band legends like Paul Whiteman, Benny Goodman, and Fred Waring, the performance further solidified Miller's standing as a key figure in American music. But the Glenn Miller Orchestra's reach extended far beyond live performances. From December 1939 to September 1942, they graced the airwaves with a weekly radio show, sponsored by Chesterfield Cigarettes and broadcast on CBS Radio. For the first 13 weeks, the band shared the spotlight with the popular Andrews Sisters, adding an extra layer of appeal to their broadcasts and introducing their music to an even wider audience. This radio show became an integral part of American entertainment during the war years. In 1942, the Glenn Miller Orchestra achieved a monumental milestone when they became the first ever recipients of a gold record for their hit song, Chattanooga Choo Choo. This was a historic moment, marking their immense popularity and solidifying their place in music history. The song, which featured the powerful vocals of Gordon Tex Beneke, Paula Kelly, and the Modernaires, was a catchy and upbeat tune that captured the spirit of the era. It became an enduring classic, loved by generations of fans. Yet the Glenn Miller Orchestra's talents were not limited to music alone. Their cultural impact extended into the hearts and minds of Americans during a pivotal time in history, forever etching Miller's name into the annals of both musical and national legacy. The Glenn Miller Orchestra also made notable appearances in two 20th Century Fox films, Sun Valley Serenade, 1941, and Orchestra Wives, 1942. In Sun Valley Serenade, the band played a central role, sharing the screen with comedian Milton Berle, and showcasing their musical talents in a show-stopping performance of Chattanooga Choo Choo. The band's next Hollywood venture came in 1942 with Orchestra Wives, a musical comedy drama that explored the lives of the musicians and their wives while on tour. The film featured a young Jackie Gleason in a supporting role as the band's bassist, adding a lighthearted touch to the story. Although the band was contracted for a third film with Fox, their plans were cut short when Miller made the fateful decision to enlist in the U.S. Army. As a result, the film Blind Date was never made. Still, the two films they completed remain a testament to the Glenn Miller Orchestra's versatility and their indelible mark on popular culture. While the public adored Glenn Miller's music, many jazz critics weren't as enamored. They found his band's sound too polished and repetitive, lacking the spontaneity and improvisational spirit that defined true jazz. Some critics even accused Miller of prioritizing commercial success over artistic integrity. Miller's response to these criticisms was simple and direct. "I don't want a jazz band." He knew what his audience wanted, and he delivered it with precision and consistency. However, some critics, like Doug Ramsey, argued that Miller's formulaic approach lacked the depth and originality that true jazz should embody. On the other hand, not all jazz critics dismissed Miller's contributions. Scholars like Gunther Schuller and Gary Giddens defended him, acknowledging that Miller's music had a unique appeal, resonating deeply with audiences in a way few other bands could. Giddens even compared Moonlight Serenade to a Pavlovian trigger, evoking an emotional response in listeners that was rare in popular music. Schuller, while critical of some aspects of Miller's vocal arrangements, recognized his ambition and drive, suggesting that his legacy could have been even greater had it not been for his untimely death. The debate over Glenn Miller's musical contributions continues to this day. Some dismiss him as a commercial sellout, while others celebrate him as a visionary who helped revolutionize the big band sound. Regardless of one's perspective, there is no denying the impact he had on popular music and the enduring legacy he left as one of the most beloved band leaders of all time. At the peak of his civilian career in 1942, Glenn Miller made a decision that shocked many. He chose to enlist in the U.S. Army. This choice meant walking away from a staggering income of $20,000 per week, an amount equivalent to approximately $330,000 per week in today's dollars. It was a sacrifice for the sake of his country, a testament to his patriotism and commitment to the war effort. At 38 years old, married, and needing glasses, Miller was an unlikely candidate for military service. Yet despite these personal obstacles, he felt a deep responsibility to contribute to the war effort, and he made this profound choice at the height of his fame. This move only amplified the public's admiration for Miller, transforming him from a beloved band leader into a symbol of sacrifice and dedication during a time of national crisis. Glenn Miller's path to military service was anything but conventional. Initially, he applied for a commission in the U.S. Navy, but his application was rejected due to a scandal involving celebrity commissions being used to dodge the draft, something that had nothing to do with Miller himself. Nonetheless, this setback didn't deter him. Miller, ever determined, shifted his focus to the Army, where he had already been in contact with officials about modernizing military music. His proposal to streamline and revitalize military music caught the attention of General Brian Somerville, who ultimately approved Miller's application for a commission. With the approval secured, Miller bid farewell to his civilian career, marking the end of an era. His final commercial broadcast for Chesterfield Cigarettes was a bittersweet moment, handing over the reins of the music world to his competitor, Harry James, in a gesture of goodwill that James would never forget. His last broadcast on the Blue Network's Coca-Cola Victory Parade of Spotlight bands further underscored the significance of the life he was leaving behind. The Glenn Miller Orchestra's final performance at the Central Theater in Picatinny, New Jersey, on September 27, 1942, was the symbolic closing of a musical chapter as Miller prepared for a new and more solemn chapter of his life. On October 7, 1942, Glenn Miller reported for duty as a captain in the Army Specialist Corps in Omaha, Nebraska. After a month of training in Maryland, he was transferred to the Army Air Forces, AAF, by order of General Henry Harley Hap Arnold. This was a prestigious branch, and Miller, eager to serve his country, saw the move as an opportunity to make a unique impact. Initially assigned to the AAF Southeast Flying Training Command in Alabama, Miller spent time learning about the mission of the training command, while also appearing on nationwide radio broadcasts to boost troop morale and showcase his musical talents. By 1943, Miller's role expanded significantly when he was transferred to the headquarters of the AAF Technical Training Command in North Carolina. There, he became the director of bands for the AAF-TTC, overseeing music programs at various AAF bases across the country. But his ambitions didn't stop there. Miller was tasked with forming and leading the second AAF radio production unit and orchestra, which was to be based in New York. This elite ensemble was a fusion of jazz musicians from big bands and classically trained musicians from top orchestras. Miller's vision was bold: to blend jazz, popular music, and classical elements, such as strings, to create a unique sound that would entertain and inspire both the troops and the home front. Miller's unit brought a fresh perspective to the airwaves, distinct from the first AAF radio production unit, which had already been established in Hollywood. His New York-based ensemble was designed to deliver a novel and innovative sound that would capture the imagination of the American public and keep the morale of soldiers high. It wasn't just about music. It was about creating a sense of unity and strength through the art form that had made Miller a household name. The Glenn Miller AAF Training Command Band didn't stop at just entertaining troops. They went above and beyond, recording V-discs, which were special records produced specifically for the troops, and also creating broadcasts for the Office of War Information and Armed Forces Radio Service. Their music was a morale booster and a beacon of hope and unity in a world gripped by conflict. The AAF Training Command Band wasn't just another concert orchestra. It was a dynamic ensemble that included a marching band for military events, as well as a jazz band led by the renowned drummer and band leader Ray McKinley. This eclectic mix of musical styles reflected Miller's innovative approach to military music, blending military tradition with modern jazz and swing. Miller's boldness didn't come without resistance. He found himself at odds with Army traditionalists, challenging the conventional norms of military music by daring to perform jazz arrangements of popular songs like St. Louis Blues and Blues in the Night, instead of the standard military marches. Yet, the Army recognized the power of Miller's music and backed his unconventional approach, giving him the freedom to bring a fresh, lively sound to the military music scene. In May 1944, as the D-Day invasion loomed, General Dwight D. Eisenhower himself requested that Miller's unit be transferred to Europe to help boost troop morale and support the war effort. The Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, SHAF, knew that they needed a top-tier band to entertain the troops and lift their spirits during such a critical time. Miller and his team accepted the mission and set sail for London aboard the RMS Queen Elizabeth, which had been converted into a troop transport ship. This marked a pivotal moment for the band, one that would take them straight into the heart of the war effort. Upon arriving in London, Glenn Miller and his band were initially based in Chelsea at Sloane Court, but the threat of V-1 flying bomb attacks prompted their relocation to Bedford, a town deemed safer from German air raids. Bedford had previously been utilized by the BBC during the Blitz, providing a secure environment for the musicians. Tragically, a day before their scheduled move on July 3rd, a V-1 bomb hit Chelsea, claiming over 100 lives, yet Miller's band remained unharmed due to their timely relocation. This close call reinforced Miller's belief in his Miller luck, feeling that destiny favored him. On July 9th, the 51-piece orchestra began broadcasting musical programs for the Allied Expeditionary Forces, AEF, under BBC's technical guidance, offering a mix of orchestral pieces, jazz quartets, and piano solos, serving as a morale booster for the troops. Miller's music also reached occupied Europe and even Germany, with a program called Music for the Armed Forces, designed to entertain and psychologically influence German listeners. However, amid this success, tragedy struck when Miller mysteriously disappeared in December 1944, shortly before a holiday performance, leaving his legacy surrounded by unanswered questions. Glenn Miller, committed to uplifting troops, sought genuine connections through music during wartime. Notably, he made announcements in phonetic German, aided by American broadcaster Gloria Wagner, who impersonated a German speaker. Band member Sergeant Johnny Desmond sang in German for a unique program designed to bridge barriers with the enemy, using music as a universal language to uplift spirits. The Glenn Miller Orchestra was in high demand as they toured American air bases in England, providing a sense of home for stationed troops. Their popular radio shows featured celebrity guests like Bing Crosby and Dinah Shaw, with Shaw participating in a special recording session at Abbey Road Studios to create German-language programs aimed at enemy territories. The American Forces Network captured the essence of their concerts for historical preservation. General James H. Diddle, 8th Air Force commander, praised the orchestra, stating, Next to A Letter from Home, Your Band is the greatest morale booster in the European theater, highlighting music's power to transcend battle lines. However, in November 1944, logistical challenges for relocating to Paris arose, demanding extensive pre-recorded broadcasts while maintaining performance schedules, complicating their move. Miller was set to fly from London to Paris on December 14, 1944, but his flight was canceled due to bad weather, which frustrated him as he was anxious to reach Paris for engagements. Unexpectedly, his colleague Jerry Gray informed him that Lieutenant Colonel Norman Bassel had a flight on a Nord-Done UC-64A Norseman scheduled for December 15th. Miller, despite having no authorization for this aircraft, accepted Bassel's offer for a seat. This choice would later prove fatal, as he did not notify his chain of command, leaving the Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, SHAF, unaware of his new travel plans. On December 15th, Miller, Bassel, and pilot John Stuart Morgan took off from RAF Twinwood Farm, but the plane never arrived in Paris, disappearing without a trace amidst the chaos of the ongoing Battle of the Bulge. It took 3 days for the SHAF to recognize Miller's absence, leading to a wave of speculation and mystery surrounding his disappearance. This incident, one of World War II's great enigmas, continues to spark theories, including accidental friendly fire, while Miller's music remains his lasting legacy. The theory surrounding Glenn Miller's disappearance includes the possibility that his UC-64 Norseman was struck by ordnance from bombers returning to base in the English Channel. This theory hinges on the dangerous practice of dropping unused bombs, but skeptics highlight the absence of wreckage and the turbulent waters that could have erased any evidence. Though some elements of Witness Shaw's account don't entirely match Miller's disappearance timeline, the friendly fire theory remains one of the most compelling. Additionally, various other theories have emerged, suggesting Miller might have been on a secret mission or even claiming sabotage, although no supporting evidence exists for such claims. Wild conspiracies also suggest he survived the crash, but those have been thoroughly dismissed. The release of classified documents by the U.S. National Archives in 2019 confirmed some travel details, but failed to clarify the circumstances of his disappearance. Ultimately, Miller's vanishing remains an unsolved mystery that continues to intrigue aviation experts and historians. Despite the uncertainty surrounding his fate, Glenn Miller's legacy as a transformative figure in American music endures, marked by his contributions to popular music and troop morale during World War II. His life, though cut short at 40, resonates through timeless melodies. The cultural and emotional impact of Glenn Miller during his lifetime remains undeniable. He was more than a band leader. He was a unifying force for a generation amidst global conflict, offering solace through his arrangements like In the Mood and Moonlight Serenade. His enlistment at the height of his career displayed his patriotism and commitment to uplifting troop morale. Following his mysterious disappearance during World War II, Miller's legend grew, inspiring numerous books, films, and documentaries, including the 1954 film The Glenn Miller Story. This revived interest in his music, which continues to resonate globally through the revived Glenn Miller Orchestra. Although Miller vanished on December 15, 1944, his legacy and influence on American culture endure. The mystery surrounding his final hours contributes to his charismatic persona. Investigations by TIGHAR, led by Rick Gillespie, aim to uncover the fate of Miller's UC-64 Norseman plane. A fisherman's tip aligning with the suspected flight path offers hope for the discovery of wreckage, potentially clarifying the cause of the crash. Modern technology may assist in overcoming the challenges posed by the English Channel's depths, seeking to unravel decades of speculation surrounding his disappearance. Glenn Miller's disappearance during the Second World War represents one of its most haunting and enigmatic mysteries. Speculations abound regarding whether he died in an accident, fell victim to Allied bombs, or was engaged in a secret mission. His musical contributions and impact on morale during the war remain significant, securing his legacy as both a pioneer and a patriot. Though we may never uncover the truth behind his vanishing on that cold December day, the legend of Glenn Miller endures. A report concluded that his disappearance was a tragic blend of bad luck and wartime circumstances, providing some closure for his wife, Helen Miller, though far from what she desired. With his body never recovered, Miller's name is honored on the tablets of the missing at the Cambridge American Cemetery, alongside other lost service members. In subsequent years, Miller's music flourished through recordings and tribute performances, gaining further recognition with the 1954 film The Glenn Miller Story. Today, the Glenn Miller Orchestra preserves his legacy with timeless classics like Moonlight Serenade and In the Mood. His story highlights the interplay of music, war, and loss, encapsulating how bright lights can vanish within the fog of war.